All right.
All right.
So we've got our README up here. And the first thing I'm going to do is, I think clear doesn't work in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in git status. All right. So what git status is showing us is that in this case, it looks like we've got a lot of different files that aren't currently included in version control. Like if I do a look here using git log, that's going to show like a list of all of our previous commits.
Okay.
It looks like there's just this first commit, which should be reflected over here. Yeah, first commit. So in this case, to get everything else, I'm going to do git add dot, and that's going to be at like the root level of the project, right? Like right here.
Okay.
So that's going to go ahead and stage all of our changes here. So if I type in git status, we're going to see all of that marked as green now instead of red,
Okay.
right? Which basically means like we've marked these changes right? And we want to do something with them. And
Mm-hmm.
really what we want to do with all these changes is we want to wrap them into a commit. So I'm going to do git commit -m, and I could state here, add remaining application to Git. So we've got all of that now, and we'll go ahead and do, actually, before I go ahead and push, I'll take a look and see my list of commits here. So now we see that we've got two, right? The original one there,
Mm-hmm.
and we've also got this newest one that I just created. So if I do git status as well right now, we should see that there's nothing to commit, working tree clean, right? And now I can go ahead and do git push origin main. And that should push up, this is basically, it's packaging up all of our changes before it goes ahead and pushes them up.
All right. Now I see it doing it now.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so there we go. And if I go, sorry about that command button there. If I go
No
over,
worries.
if I go over here and refresh, we should see in our list here, the list of commits. If it's not appearing here, then it's probably pointing to another location. Let's go ahead and do refresh. Still only listing one commit here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say git remote -v. And this looks like it's Vitae app. Let's see here. Let's grab this link just to confirm. Okay, so we're looking at the correct repository here, but I can see when we tried to push, looks like there was an error that came up for us here. Failed to push some refs. So in this case, usually the issue when we see this sort of project is that we haven't pulled down changes before going ahead and pushing up. Let's try git pull origin main. Okay, now let's try git push. Let's just try git push in this case. Okay, so let's see here as well. Push decline due to repository rule violations. So let's see, to push, remove secret from commits or follow this URL to, okay. So I see that there are some credentials that are included in here. So I think it's actually just trying to protect you in this case from pushing up sensitive information.
Okay.
Yeah, so it looks like in this case, it detected that information isn't being included in our git ignore file. So let's see if I can find this particular piece here. It looks like path service account key.json. So let's go ahead and add the service account key.json to git ignore here. And I'll go ahead and add it right over here. So let's go ahead and indicate ./firestore config .tsx. There's also, because Firestore config, I believe, has some sensitive information in here. Oh, excuse me. There's also another file I know which is being mentioned here, which is service account key.json. So let's say service account key.json. So now that that's saved out, let's do git status. Okay. Now, in this case, we have modified our git ignore, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Git status. There we go. Now let's do git commit m. And I'm going to say here, add sensitive files to git ignore. So now in this case, let's try to go ahead and do another push. And let's see if these protections still kick in here. Now, is it a requirement for this project to have it pushed up to GitHub?
I am not 100% sure. I just know that because what we're supposed to do, I'm going to assume so. It's just that for the capstone, we have to literally have a meeting with them and show them how we log in, how we get the data, we put stuff in. So stuff like that. It's a more interactive submit.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, in this case, I mean, if we really want to get this one up here, I'm going to go ahead and I got to revert to our first commit. I could revert to our first commit, but then we would lose all of our different changes here. Let's see here, because again, if this is included inside of our commit, let me just check something really quickly here. Okay, so let's say in this case, I'm going to do git show for this commit right here. And this should show us all of the different files and so on that were modified here. But that's going to be a lot of information really that we don't need here. But I can already see in this case, one of these files, firestore config.tsx, is included inside of our version control here because it was included inside of that commit. So what I've got to do here is I've got to remove that individual file. Just one sec here. Git reset soft. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to state here then git resets. And just a moment here. So let's state here git reset. Looks like I lost control here. I'm going to stop the remote control and restart it. All right. All right. So let's go ahead here and start to go a little bit back. Because the thing is, it's not allowing us to push up the commit with those files included, those sensitive files. The thing is that I've added the files that should not be included to the git ignore after they've already been wrapped into a commit that I'm trying to push up. So what I'm trying to do here is slightly complex because what I've got to do is modify this commit so that it doesn't include those sensitive file changes. So a moment here. And let's see. Again, one more time here, we've got git reset dash dash soft head. So it might be a little bit different because we're in a Windows terminal here. Okay, so it looks as though the commands are the same. In this case, if I hit enter, it's prompting us for more. It's just a moment here. Okay. Status now. So there's our git ignore, which is going to go ahead and basically it undid our last commit there. I'm going to go ahead and do one more. Now this is going to go ahead and take us 2 commits back. And now that our git ignore file has been updated, we should see that these files that should not be included are now omitted from the code itself. I do see firestore config.tsx included here. So let's go ahead and change our code here. I'm going to remove the ./ here, save this out. And I want to go ahead here and clear out this terminal before entering git status one more time here. Now we should see that this file is omitted from our version control. Let's see, firestore config.tsx is still included in our version control despite the inclusion of firestore config.tsx inside of our .gitignore file. So in this case, because it was prior, it was already added into this one. I suppose it's still going ahead and adding it. But let me remove here. So we can go ahead and undo these changes. Let's do git restore. And let's target that one individual file that's preventing us from doing the push here, which is the firestore config.tsx file. So now if I do git status, we should see that that file is omitted from this information up here. It appears as though it's still included here. So let's go ahead and include it. Looks as though the inclusion of this -- staged flag is important for us. So I'm going to type in git restore -- staged. Then I'm going to do firestore config.tsx. Let's do git status one more time here to confirm. Okay, looks like that file is now omitted from version control, which is good for us. So now let's go ahead and also confirm that the service account key isn't included. I am seeing the service account key included here as well. So what I'm going to do is the same exact command, but I'm going to target the other file here, which is going to be the service account key .json. Now, if I do git status, we should see that the service account key and also the firestore config are omitted from our version control here. So now what I can do is I can safely say, okay, we've got git log. Let's do git add dot. Let's say git status. Let's also go ahead here and just confirm one more time that these sensitive files are not included in here. So we can see we've got all this information inside here. We don't have the service account key. Let's go ahead and wrap this. I'm going to say add remaining application code to git. Now we're going to go ahead here and do the git push origin main. And now that we've excluded those sensitive files, it should allow us to go ahead and push up here to GitHub.
Okay, it's nice that VS Code and GitHub have these built-in systems to prevent sensitive information from getting out.
Yep, exactly. I mean, I don't recall seeing these sort of protections in place in the past, but it is good definitely to see them doing that. So that was a little roundabout, but we got the information up here. So
All right.
let's get back to just running the application itself to see where we left off. And let's go back here. A lot of commands I entered here. Oh, okay, so that only goes back to git status then. Do we have our server? Maybe it was running over here.
I didn't have it activated yet, so just
Oh, okay. I think it was npm run dev was the command there for that.
Yep, and then I'll just oh, then let's go.
All right.
All right.
So let's go over here now and let's get back open the console. Because last time we were looking at the sort of process of adding new records to Firestore. And we were also kind of playing around with the delete functionality. I just want to, first of all, let's get open our Firebase console. And let's go ahead and look at Firestore for this project here. So once we get this up, I'm going to go ahead and maybe delete a few of these documents. Let's see here. We've got ID 1, ID 3, ID 5. Let's remove maybe just the last two. And let's go back over here to remove ID 4 as well. Okay. So now we've only got 3. If I go over here and refresh, we'll see that we've just got those 3 in there. Let's go ahead and create a new one. I'll call this one test 4. And go ahead and paste this in. Okay, so I want us to closely see the flow here. So I click on submit. Let's take a look over here inside of console. Looks like the document was written. Let's go over to here. We can actually see it. I believe we don't even have to refresh the page. It looks like new records come through automatically for us. So we're going to see right there, the newest one I created, test 4. Let's go back over to here. Let's exit out. And I remember this was the sort of formatting issue we were seeing here before. But if I refresh the page, we can see that it's still 1 of 4 of 4, 1 through 4 of 4. It was showing that before, so there's just like a rendering issue. This one is displaying for us. We can come back to the actual rendering a little bit later. Just want to get the functionality out. So we've got in this case post done, right? We're able to read the records as well. What we were looking at before was deleting individual records. So if I select this one and then I click on delete, we can see that it says document deleted successfully before going ahead and loading up again. Now remember, this is what we saw last time because it's refreshing the page. So let's go over to data table in this case. Let's see the button for actually going ahead and deleting, which is right over here. And when we click on that button, delete data fires off. And we've got delete data right up here. Now, we have this set as an asynchronous function, delete data. We also have handle delete set as an asynchronous function. What it's going to do is it's going to await delete document ref, and then we're going to console log document deleted successfully. But let's change our syntax a little bit here. Because if we're seeing document deleted successfully, then it looks like when I go ahead and submit or click on that delete button, it's still going ahead and reloading the window. So let's go ahead and remove this first of all to get rid of this refresh that takes place. Let's go back over here. We still see our 4. Let's click on 4 and let's hit delete. Okay, so document was deleted successfully. Page does not refresh, but let's go ahead and refresh here. Okay, still appearing here for us. If it's going ahead here and stating document deleted successfully, and it's not erroring out, I want us to also check our selection model. Let's go ahead and select here one more time. There's our selection model coming through. Now, get data, in this case, I want to see what get data is doing for us here. Use get data. I can see we have up here. Let's see other instances of this. Right, use get data is right here, and use get data is from custom hooks and fetch data. So let's take a look in there real quick and see. There's our custom hooks. So let's see fetch data. Okay, because this is really what's firing off, it appears, when we click on that delete as well. So we're not really using any of this code anymore to load up our code here. So I'm going to go ahead and go back into data table, and let's comment out get data in here as well. All right. So let's go back into here now. Let's refresh. Let's delete. Give it a moment. Okay. So in this case, we have a bad request that's being sent. Let's see, Firestore write data table line 63, which is where we're trying to delete the document. Firebase Firestore, channel okay, write stream, transport error. Let's see. See if I can see more information about this. Here's our database. Okay. All this information is included here. Now, just one moment here. Again, when I fire off delete data, this function should fire off. Let's go ahead and remove async here. And that's going to create some issues with the weight over here. So let's change this to remove the await. Select test4, let's delete. Okay. So let's go ahead and refresh here now. So test4 in this case, we can see it is not in fact being deleted here. So let's see, function delete data fires off. We get a console log of the selection model. We go through the selection model array and we state, first of all, the document ID to string that we want to delete. We pass in the document ID into handle delete. And in this case, let's still go ahead. I want to remove the asynchronous function here, syntax as well. And I want to get rid of the await inclusion here. Okay, so let's go ahead and refresh. Select test4, let's hit delete. Okay, so again, in this case, let's go ahead and refresh. Still appearing here for us. Let's see. So we've gotten the document ref over here with DB celestial objects. We've targeted that along with document ID that's being passed in. Let's try here. I'm going to change my syntax just a little bit. Let's get rid of the try here. Let's state delete document ref. Then and in this case, I'm going to say document deleted successfully. Let's get rid of this here. And we're going to have our .catch for our error in place here. Let's do catch. We're going to have the error as well. Okay, and we're gonna have that error there. Here. I have this bit of code. Okay. So let's go again here. I'm going to go ahead and click on 4. Let's delete. Okay, looks like it took a little bit of time there, which is better for that confirmation. Let's go ahead and refresh. Let's go back over to here and confirm. Now there are rules as well that we've set for this database, so I want to make sure that our rules are allowing us to go ahead and delete documents here. Read, write. Okay, to view, edit, and delete all data in the Firestore database. Yep, so this is set by default. Let's go back over here. So again, not seeing any errors being reported here, but let's try to fire this off once more, and then we'll take a look in terminal to see what's coming up for us here. So there's terminal. All right, doesn't look like it's, oh, okay, let's see. Okay, let's go back up and see. Looks like this is all an error that's been outputted for us. So let's see. Okay, let's see. Internal server error. I can see datatable.tsx line 71. Looks like that was perhaps just an issue when we were rendering here. So let's try one more time. Let's delete here. And we are getting a confirmation that it has been deleted successfully. So if the document is not actually deleting then, let's see here. Let's refresh one more time. Just a moment. Right. Okay. So the document ID in this case is going to be a little bit unique. It's actually going to be kind of like this, see this like long string of numbers and characters here.
Yeah.
So it's going to be this item itself. And if we're getting the document ID from selection model, then it's actually not document ID. It's by a specific value. So one sec here. Okay, so we should be able to go ahead and just pull the ID for each one of those. So let's see. Again, we've got document ref over here with the document ID. But I should be able to go ahead and just select this collection. And based on the, so again, let's see here. Let me do Control Z. So based on our code right now, when we click on any one of these, if we look at components, that's going to update our selection model state. So let's look at data table here. And as I select these, we see that array right here being populated, right, right down there. So the idea again is when we click on any one of these, let's see, data grid, checkbox selection true, on selection model change item any, set selection model to the item. So in this case, when we click on any one of these, it looks like the item is being added, but the item is actually the ID. So let's say something like item dot ID. Let's try that. And I'm going to refresh this. And now I'm going to select some of these and see, okay, so undefined in this case, so there's no ID coming through there for item. So let me see if I can find selection model change item, any such selection model to that item. We want to find in this case, not by document ID. Let's see here. Okay. So let's see over here. So let's get the celestial objects collection. So I'm going to get rid of this. And now this is going to be celestial objects collection. So this is going to be our collection that's returned here. I'm going to change this from doc to collection. Now, from that collection itself, we're going to want to issue a query. So in this case, again, we do want to delete the doc as well. But let's see here. Again, document ref is what we're going to get from each one of these. Let's go ahead and indent this one. And I'm going to say here, again, our query is going to be built here. One sec here. So again, in this case, const query is going to be equal to, let's see, that celestial objects collection. And we're going to say where, but in this case, let me put query before. I'll just mark this as a Q for now. So query celestial objects collection. And we're going to put in here as well, where ID is equal to a particular value, which is going to be the document ID. That's going to be that actual ID that's passed in here. So Q is going to yield us our query. Then I'm going to have to say get docs. So let me go ahead and see here. So our query again, based on the query itself, I should be able to use get docs on that query. And then I'm going to have here query snapshot. Let me see here. And from that query snapshot, I'm going to get the document ref. And that document ref is going to be equal to, in this case, so again, query snapshot for each. And in this case, it's going to be for each doc. We're going to go ahead here. Okay. And we're going to state here doc.ref. And then from each one of those refs there, we're going to go ahead and fire off our remaining code here to delete the document. All right. So in other words here, when we fire off delete data, when we click on that delete button, it's going to fire off this delete data function. It's going to iterate through each of those IDs inside a selection model, and it's going to pass that document ID as a string to handle delete. What we're going to then do is handle delete is going to fire off for each one of those. So if we've got like 2 items, it's going to fire off twice. We're going to go ahead and get the collection. we're going to query the collection for where, right? It's equal to a particular, let me see here if I can add where to my list of imports here. Okay, let's go back down here. Right, so in this case, we're saying, okay, so we're going to query that entire collection to find that individual item, right, based on its ID. We're going to go ahead and get that, the query that is returned here, we're going to go ahead and pass that into get docs. We're going to take our query snapshot for each of the documents inside of it. We're going to go ahead and take the ref. We're going to pass the ref into delete doc, which is what's required for us to go ahead and delete that document. So a little complex what we're doing here. We can go back through it, but I want to see if this flow will work for us here. So let's go ahead and click on test 4 here. Let's click on delete. Let's give it a little bit of time. Okay, and if we don't see any confirmation here, then that means that we've moved into this code down here, but haven't reached this console log here. So let's see. Get docs fires off. And let's see, we don't really have any sort of error catching in here. So let me see if I can include that underneath get docs. So let's do right here, dot catch error. And if there's any error, we're going to see it down here. Say console.error. And in this case, we're going to say error getting documents. And then we'll put the error here. So let's try again over here. I'm going to select this last record. Let's delete it. See if any error comes through for us in this case. Now our selection model, I can see that the selection model went off. That individual console log we have at the selection model fires. I know that selection model, this console log is firing as well. So we're jumping down to this code, but for some reason here we're getting a little bit lost. Let's see, get docs dot then query snapshot for each doc. We pass in the document ref into delete doc. Let's see if we can get at least some document refs here. And I'll make it a little easier to read by saying, let's say, document ref. And then we'll include this as a second argument here. Now let's see if we get any document refs to come through for us here. If I do test 4 and delete. All right. So in this case, if we're not hitting that console log of document ref, that means we're not really getting a query snapshot here. Let's see if I can get console.log of Q. Let's see if I can get some information about Q in this case. So there's our query in this case that's coming through. So the query is what we pass through into get docs here. Dot then we have query snapshot for each. We get the document out of there. We get the document ref out of there. And so again, the document ref itself, we should see console log down here. But if we're not, then again, that means that we're not proceeding down into the rest of our code here. So the query, we're passing into get docs. But again, the query we've set up here with all of our different parameters. We've got document ID that's being passed in here. Let's see if I can do in this case, a log of document ID, or maybe I can see the results of this query. So let's see here. So again, this query in this case is pulling all of our items. Let's see if there is ID 4. I can see right here with an ID of 4 is being passed in here. It doesn't need to be a string. So what I want to say is actually in this case, it's going to be an integer. Let's refresh here. Let's click on handle delete. Now document ID, let's do a console log of that. So if I go back into here and refresh, click on test 4, there's our document ID coming through here as an integer. The document ID is being passed into Celestial Objects collection here. It does look like it needs to be a string value, so I'm going to keep it as a string. Let's see if changing this up here changes the actual console log value that we see. So let's go back here. Let's click on delete. Still coming through as a 4. Let me see how I can check here. We need to check the type of something. So let's try type of console ID. Just to get the data type of the document type that's, or excuse me, the document ID that's coming through here. So let's go ahead and click on delete. It is a string that's coming through. So therefore it is good for us to drop it into there. So in this case, again, let's verify that the IDs, how they are stored here. It's stored as a number. One sec. Okay. So it shouldn't be a problem then for us that the type here is a string. That'll be fine. If we're querying the Celestial Objects collection where it is equal to that value, then again, we're getting the query log to our console. We're stating get docs.then query snapshot for each of those query snapshots. Let's see if I can do a console log of query snapshot just to verify that we're getting something for that. Let's go back over here. Let's refresh. Let's look at test 4. Let's go ahead and delete here. Okay, so the query snapshot in this case, we do have a log here for this. We can see that all this information is being passed here. And for each of those query snapshots, we're going through our doc here. Just a moment. Okay, so it is an object. And we're saying for each. Let's see if I can get .length, the value of that attribute to come through. Let's go ahead and click on delete. Okay, so undefined in this case for query snapshot.length. It's okay. So we're hitting this console log here. Then we're going query snapshot dot for each. Let's try something else. Query snapshot dot for each. Let's do our own little method here. I'm going to say item console.log item. So let's try that. Let's go ahead and refresh here. Let's go ahead and click on delete. Okay, and so I want to say console log here item, just to indicate what we're looking at here. Save this out. Let's refresh. Let's refresh. Click here, test 4. Okay, so no item coming through for this console log. So dot for each is not firing off for query snapshot. Just a moment here. Okay, so in this case, we did not find here. Let's see something else here. I'm going to put a little bit of conditional logic here. The state if query snapshot dot empty. If it is in fact empty, then we want to say if it is empty, then we want to go ahead and say here console.log. And we're going to say here no documents found. Else we're going to go ahead here and put all of our other behaviors inside of this else statement. So let's go ahead here, close this up. Now let's go back over to here. And let's click on test 4. Let's click delete. Okay, so no documents found in this case. Query snapshot.empty means in this case that we're not finding any items inside of the celestial object collection that that match, right, with what we're supplying here. So if we're looking at the IDs, these do in fact match up, right? But I can see that they are stored as numbers. I could potentially change these to strings, or I could go ahead and do parse integer. So let's try that. Okay, so let's try here. So now we're going to go ahead and send up an integer. Okay, there we go. Looks like we got a confirmation in this place. In this case, we got all the way through all of our code here. So we were able to find a document with that integer being supplied here. So let's go ahead and refresh here now. And there we go. Number 4 is gone. So the issue was then passing an integer along with where here to find that individual record. Let's see if I can change it by saying big integer here. Let's say document ID. Let's save this out. Let's refresh. And let's try to delete test 3 now. Okay, so it's stating there are no documents found in this case. So let's state here to keep this as an integer. One sec here. So I should be able to just say here, number. Well, let's go ahead and refresh. Let's click on test 3, delete. Okay, no documents found in this case. So, so it looks as though I will accept it as a string. Let's remove this one here. Let's try this one more time. Okay, there we go. That looks as though it did delete the document then. So let's go ahead and refresh, and there we go. So therefore, I don't have to convert it to a string. There's no need for me to do that. I'm just setting as the parameter, I'm saying that it is a number, so that when it's passed here, it's passed as a number. So the only other thing we've got to do is we've got to update the state to reflect this change. Now, the way in which we're setting props is up here. We've got celestial objects collection and set celestial objects collection. So what we're going to say here is after we console log here, we'll do set celestial object. It actually should be in this case props. Props dot set celestial object collection. And we'll state here dot, and we'll do celestial props dot celestial object collection, and we'll add in the new item itself. So, or actually in this case, we'll have to remove it, right? We'll have to update the state so that we've removed this item itself. So let's get rid of our other console logs we have here. All right. Now again, we've got to update the celestial object collection that we've got here. We've got to reflect this so that the state removes, so that it's removed from the state itself. So what I'm going to say here is const filtered filtered list is equal to props dot celestial object collection dot filter, and I'm going to say item here, and we want to filter out, we want to return items where in this case, again, we've got the, let's say here, where, let's say where the item.id is not equal to the ID in question, which is passed in here as document ID. Now, with this filtered list, we'll want to go ahead and set props.set celestial object collection. We'll want to update this to be our filtered list. So again, what happens here is we should see the state over here being manipulated. When I delete it, we should see the item not only be removed from Firestore up here, but we should also see it disappear from this list here. Now, set celestial object collection, we can see that we've got 2 in this state. When I click delete here, again, what it should do is it should remove it from this state. There we go. So that state's gone. We see it's removed here. So now if I refresh, we can see it's the same outcome, but we're getting that like instant feedback, right, to remove the item there. So let's do test 2. Let's copy this. Let's paste this throughout. Let's submit. Now, if I go back to components over here, and I go back to app, you should see that there are now, so there are 2 now in this state actually. And there should be, let's exit out here and let's refresh. There's our test 2. Let's go ahead and do test 3. So I'm going to go ahead and, oops, let's do here test 3. And now let's exit out here and drop these in. Let's submit. And again, now there are 3 that we should be seeing inside of the state. If I go back up here to app, we can see that there are now 3 reflected in the state. And on the back end here, we can see that we've got 3 documents as well, including the most recent one that I created there. Now, again, there's still that kind of weird rendering issue where when we come back here, it's not directly like all the fields aren't appearing. So have to take a look back at that. But we are seeing that it is being added to our list here. So what we've done at this point is we've handled, we have read, we have create set up, we also have delete set up, but now let's see update. So when we look at data table over here, and if I click on that button of update, we can see that, let's see, that fires off, update this button fires off a call of handle open, which opens up our modal. And handle open up here sets our state of open to true, the state that we have set up here. That changes our rendering down here. That makes our modal appear here. And I think the idea is that when we go ahead and select one of these, and if I click on update, I believe the idea is that I'm updating that individual record right now.
Mhm.
So the thing is, though, I mean, if we select two and then we select update, what does that mean, right? But just trying to see the sort of flow here. Like if we click on update, then the ID that's passed to it is the selection model. So let's see here the elements. We've got our body here. We've got a bit of other code right here. Got our navigation bar. We've got our div that contains our form here. And it looks like this one is what contains this individual modal right here. And this individual modal right here contains yet another container. Let's see, let's keep going through this. And now these are the individual components here. So the ID that's passed to the selection, to the modal here is going to be the selection model, which is that state that's updated when we go ahead and select any one of those items inside of the data table. So let's see. ID, in this case, we pass the selection model. And what I want to see is the ID attribute for modals. Okay, so the ID in this case is going to be the selection model, which again, we can see over here. If I've got the selection model set to, let's go to data table, and here's our selection model, it only contains one item, then that selection model is what's going to be passed as the ID over here to this modal that's appearing here on our browser page. So the modal, I can see that the ID of one has been passed over here. Let's go to the modal, and let's see in this case, open Boolean, on close void, props on close. We go ahead and load up the contact form here. And the contact form is what we see over here. Now, update though, I mean, if we're passing these props to the modal, if the ID is something we can select here, then it doesn't, I mean, if we're only looking at one form, then it doesn't really make sense if we select multiple records. Because if we select multiple records, we click on update, we go over here, and I go ahead and click on update, the modal appears, the modal is over here, and it now has an array of 2 items inside of here. So what I'm wondering, I mean, it's like we have 2 different items. We cannot display 2 different items inside of the update here. So this sort of flow, it really only makes sense to me that we would be able to update just one of these records at a time, not update, multiple records at once.
Yeah.
So well, what I'm wondering though is if we can delete multiple records. Let's try to delete just these 2. Let's give it a moment here. Okay, so it's only really deleting those, I believe, just once at a time. Or no, okay, so it was deleting those, but just wasn't updating the state with the latest record. So we can delete multiple items. We just, when it comes to update, again, that doesn't really make the most sense to me. I really can only see us actually using updating one record at a time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if in this code that the source code that we have here, this template, if they were trying to accommodate updates for multiple records. But
Um,
mhm,
I'm not sure. Uh,
okay. I mean, we could
that's,
we could change it where like if we click on a record, then it takes us to an update form for that individual record. In which case we would be able to load up a form with that one individual record each time.
okay.
Um, yeah, because I mean the current flow with like updating multiple records, I just don't see how they're expecting us to do that there. But yeah, it could be set where when we click on any one of these individual rows, we are taken to an update for that individual record, which would mean that first of all, I would get rid of this button here because we're not going to be doing this anymore. Now the idea is going to be something along the lines. Actually, could we do a multi-line comment right here, or
Sure.
just that command? All right, very good. So we got this button to remove now. But what we want is, again, clicking on these individual rows can take us to an update. So I can still have, multiple records in here. Let's create like just one more, just to have a few in there. Submit this, exit out. There's our test two. Not rendering properly, but it's okay. We've got our test two. Oh. And again, when I click on one of these rows, let's take a look at, we are looking at data table. Each one of these rows that is generated is right over here. We're passing prop celestial object collection. Now, on selection model change, when we go ahead and select different items, that's going to go ahead and continue adding those items to our selection model. But we could also say something like, we have checkbox selection true, rows per page options 5. We have all of our columns set up here as well. We have our rows passed here. Now, I want to see one thing. Okay, so we've got our data grid. Okay, we've got all of our columns. Okay, cool. So we should be able to go ahead and add one more attribute here to say something like on row click. Whenever any one of those rows are clicked, we can go ahead and put our own function here. Let's say handle row click. And now handle row click, it's not working there because it's doesn't have it defined. But let's go ahead here. Let's get rid of these other pieces here as well. Clean up that function. Let's define a function here. And by the way, I had regular kind of vanilla JavaScript function declarations here, but we can do this in the same way we have our other functions. So we've got delete data here. Now let's say const handle deletes. And let's set that equal here. And let's go ahead here. Okay. So if there's an issue with the const definition over here, let's see. Delete data document ID believes like looks like in this case string is not assignable parameter of type number. So in this case, let's see our error. Let's just double check over here in console. Handle row click is not defined, so let me go ahead and define that now. Okay, we've got our function defined now. Handle row click, so that's going to clean things up for us. Now, also handle deletes. Let me see here. Type string is not a single parameter type number. So what I'll do here then is I'll just parse it and document. All right. So we got all this information loaded up here right now. And again, when we click on one of these rows, we want something to fire off just for now. So let's say in handle row click, I'm going to go ahead and state here params. And let's go ahead here and say console.log. Let's say row clicked. And we're going to go ahead here and say params dot row. And let's see the information that comes through for us here for this. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this one. We can see that something has fired off for us here, right? We can see that individual row object that we're looking at here. So let's do a few different things. When we click on the handle row click, let's have this change the state that we have here, that state of open. Let's have handle open fire off. So let's say handle open fires off, and that's going to open up our modal. So now whenever we click on any one of these, it should open up our modal just like that. Now it's gonna select it too, right? Like if I back out, 2 is still selected here, which is okay. We can still worry about those like UI kind of related issues later. But in this case, we've got the row that's been clicked. So what I can do is with handle row click, then I should be able to go ahead and pass this information to the form to have it loaded up. So handle row click in this case, we have handle open firing off, but let's have a state set up here. So we have selection model, which is already included here. From that selection model, oops, let's go back up to here. From that selection model, we can use that for really for delete to delete multiple items. But let's go over to here. Let's create one more state. And I'm going to say here, selected item, set selected item. And let's do useState here. And let's have this initially as an empty object. Let me just get things nice and kind of ordered here. All right. Oh, looks like it just formatted them anyway. That's okay. So selected item, when we go ahead and click on, again, any one of these rows, we want the selected item to be the individual row in question, which is going to be params.row. We verified there, that's the object. So once we set the selected item here, let's go ahead and pass this to our modal. Now, let's go ahead here and say selected item is going to be equal to selected item, that state that we created before. And over in modal, we're going to say something like to contact form, let's pass. First of all, let's add it to our props here to be destructured. So in this case, we're going to have selected item. And we're going to set that equal to just an object. And selected item in this case, we're going to access over here. We're going to say selected item is equal to props dot selected item. So we're going to pass down that selected item to the contact form. And when we go to the contact form, we're going to also go ahead here for the props for this one. And let's see. Okay, so we're destructuring them normally here. Let's go ahead here and say selected item. Now let's see here. So selected item, we could go ahead here and say, for each one of these, we could, the initial state here is empty, but I could say something like selected item dot name or an empty string. So if I click here, we should see that it loads up here, but let's see. Selected item again, in this case, whoops, go ahead and refresh. Let's select this item. Let's exit out. Let's click here again. So again, selected item is what we're trying to pass here, selected item.name to the contact form. But the contact form back here in data table, let's see if we can update this state first of all. So let's go to components. Let's go to data table. In this case, we have, let's see, constellation of tests. Let's refresh here. So this is initially an empty object. Once we go ahead and select a row, it should update. It updates our state over here with all that information. We can see name is one of our properties here. So in this case, selected item again is what over here from data table to the modal. In the modal, I'm going ahead and I'm saying selected item is an object, and I'm passing selected item to contact form. And then contact form over here, I've got selected item over here. And I'm saying, okay, so we're going to go ahead and set the name to selected item.name or an empty string. Now let's go ahead here and type in a value of test. Just to see here, let's go ahead and refresh. Let's click here. Okay, so it looks like in this case, let's see, I'm trying to even put test in here and it doesn't look like it's utilizing that value. But let's do this one, test. Let's refresh. Let's refresh. Let's click here. So again, I click on this and it's changing our state from our open state to true, which is loading up our form here. Let's see if this loads up if I click on catalog new celestial object. Okay, so that one still doesn't load up there. So then in this case, let's see. I could go ahead and try something else here. Let's try console.log of selected item. And so if I go over to console, and then if I go here and click, we can see that console.log of the selected item coming through here. So selected item, in this case, it should be setting it as the initial value for our state of name. But actually, I could set the placeholders here are kind of overwriting what we had before. So I could say something like, for placeholder, we could say something like, let's say selected item dot name or name. There we go. There's our value coming through from the back end there for selected item. But this is a placeholder. So the value itself, let's see. Ah, okay, so this was the problem with the what I was missing here in the form before. So let's go ahead and change this back. Let's keep this as just name. And I want to go ahead and set the value for each one of these to be equal to the state. So let's say value is equal to, in this case, name, which is our state. And up here with our name, I can say, all right, if we have a selected item, then let's pull the name and set that as the initial value for the state. Otherwise, let's set an empty string. So over here now, we can see that loads up. And I can take the same sort of syntax and I can bring it over here, selected item dot type. We've also got selected item dot constellation. We've got here selected item dot time of year. Then we've got spotting location here. And then we've got discover. So what we should see on the right side here, let's get rid of the console. Let's click on one of these rows. And let's verify here we've got selected item, but we've got all these different values here. Let's go ahead and say console.log one more time here. And I'm going to state here selected item. And we're going to say selected item. Just so I can see that entire object to verify why it's not pulling those values. So we've got all of these stored here. If I click on it, let's go ahead and see, probably because the values I need to set here as well. So let's state value is equal to, in this case, it's going to be type. Let's set the value equal to constellation here. Let's set the value here equal to time of year. Set the value here equal to spotting location. Let me verify my code in here. Spotting location. And then finally, we've got a value here, which is going to be our discoverer. So now we've got all these values loaded up over here. Let's verify the state that I set up here. Oh, okay, I said spotting location. I have different, it looks like I have camel case then in this case. So let's change this to time of year. Let's change this to spotting location. Let's change this to discover. Let's change this. Let's make sure all of our states here are matching up. So again, good. Looks like we are good on this one. So again, if we click on the form here, we can see that there's no values that are supplied automatically. But if we click on one of these records, all those values are loaded up. Right, so if I click on the first one, we can see this form loaded up with all these values. But again, if I'm adding a new one, whoops. So again, in this case, I've got to undo the state. So probably when I go ahead here and do, probably when I go ahead here and click outside the modal, then it really should go ahead and set that back to 0 to the selected object. So let's see, we've got contract form and we've got all of this. What I want to see as well is handle close, if that's being utilized here. If not in contact form, then data table. Handle close is right over here. And handle close, we have handle open, which is going ahead and setting open. Excuse me, we have handle open, which is setting open to true, and handle close, which is setting open to false. But when we go ahead and select a row here, when we do handle row click, we've got to set a selected item to the params.row that was set here. And when we do handle close, we've got to not only set open to false, we've also got to change set selected item back to an empty object. So set selected item is a function right here that's available to us. So again, what I should see is if I refresh this page, I select here, we exit out, I select here, we exit out, I go to catalog new celestial object, and that's cleared out too. So we always start out and are loaded up with whichever row we've clicked on here. So now what we've got to do is we've got to make sure that when we submit the form with an update request taking place, then we've got to make sure that it updates on the back end for us. So this is the actual creation here, right? Like the creation of a new record or creation of a new doc. We want to update. So let's create some conditional logic here. Let's say this submit, when we submit it, there's going to be 2 possible behaviors. And whether or not we initiate those behaviors is going to depend on the presence of a prop. So if I say here, if selected item, if there is no selected item, then we want to go through this flow. Otherwise, we want to go through a separate flow when we submit this form. So we've got our else logic in here. I'm going to just put a little console.log, and I'm just going to say update. Because again, if I click here and then I click on submit, let's go ahead here and click on this one. Let's click on submit. If I open this one up, we can see update firing off. We can see then in that case, all of this other logic here is going to fire off and this other else right down here. So here's where we're going to go ahead and put some of our logic. So I want to find here the piece that we need from Firebase admin in order to actually update a doc. I would assume that it would be something like update doc, but let's just double check here. Again, this is going to be Firebase Firestore. Okay. Yep, so that will just be update doc for us. And update doc in this case, we're going to be putting all into this bit here. So we've already got our database. We've already got our item here. Let's go ahead and pull our document ref for this given item. So I'm going to say document ref is equal to, let's say doc db. And the collection itself is going to be celestial objects. And in order to pass that document ID that's required in order to identify the document, let me see. Right, so this is going to be the kind of the same flow as what we saw before. First, I'm going to go ahead and grab the collection here. So I'm going to state const celestial objects collection. Let's go ahead and grab this. And we can undo redundancy in our code as well, as we wish. So we've got our collection over here. And let's go ahead and define the query to find the document here. So I'm going to say const q is equal to query. And let's query the celestial objects collection right here, where the ID is equal to, and we're going to have to state here where it's equal to a certain number. Now, in this case, where ID is equal to, and I'll state here selected item dot ID. Now this is going to be, this is going to yield us. It should actually be, excuse me, an integer here, so that should be fine. We're going to pass this information through once we get the query here. We're going to go ahead and get the docs for this one as well. So I'm going to say get docs, drop in our query, which is going to yield us a query snapshot. And the query snapshot, we're going to go ahead and we're going to iterate over. And for each one of these individual docs, I'm going to go ahead and pull the document ref. It's going to be, in this case, doc.ref. And now that we've got the document ref in this case, we still want to create an updated object. So let's go ahead here and state, and I'll drop this maybe right at the top over our console.log. So let's go ahead over here. Now I'm going to have it in the same sort of flow that we have up here. I'll drop in here. This is not going to be data with ID. This is going to be updated data. The ID itself is, we're not going to have to go ahead and replace here. That's only when we're generating new items. But I could, for good measure, just say ID is equal to selected item.id. So we're going to take all that updated data. After we identify the document itself, we're going to go ahead now and update the doc. So let's do update doc. And inside of here, we're going to say document ref. And we're going to say new data as our second argument here. Or actually, this would be updated data. So we pass in all of this updated data right here. I could actually go ahead and perhaps move this inside of here. This is where we're actually using that object. We're going to fire off update doc. Then go ahead here. Drop in a function. We're going to state here. Document successfully updated. And we're also going to have a little bit of error catching here. For the error, I'm going to go ahead and state error updating document. State here, update document. Then we'll drop our error here. So this will work for us here with the first part. But what I would also like to do is for get docs, which is right back here at this indentation level. Let's see, get docs dot then. I could also go ahead here, put another layer of error catching to say that we didn't find any issues, or excuse me, didn't find any documents or something like that. So I could say console.error. Let's say error documents. All right. So again, let's go through this flow. I click on the first one here. Let's change this to ing. I'm gonna go ahead here and click on submit. And let's take a look at our console here. Where is not defined. So in this case, it looks like that's just another import I gotta have here. Let's get rid of the ones that aren't being imported. Oops, sorry for the command key there. Sorry about that.
Do you need me to move it?
Oh yeah, if you could please. Sorry about that. I
Okay.
think rearrange the windows.
All right. So you can see both?
Yep. All right, I can see those there.
All right,
So,
good deal.
all right, so let's get this back over here now. And let's get this comma back. All right. So so again here, I'm gonna go back, refresh. See that we can see those changes aren't pushed through there. Let's go ahead and say testing. Let's click on submit. Let's check our console. Document successfully updated. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit X. We're probably not going to see it here right off the bat, but if I refresh, we can see it is updated.
So just gotta now set it to where there's an automatic refresh.
Well, the thing is, we're just going to kind of update the state. Like in the same way, if I once we go ahead and delete this, like once it's confirmed that we've deleted that record, like from Firebase or Firestore, then we go ahead and update state, right?
I got you.
Yep. So if the document, so like for example, right here, the document is successfully updated, then at this point, I'm going to want to say, okay, you know, I know that I'm going to want to update the state, right? So let's say set celestial object collection, right? This is our setter function for that state. We know that we're going to want to take our existing state, find that record, and replace it. So let me look up something real quick here. So we should be able to find this individual item and go ahead and replace it. But let's create here, first of all, const new, I'll say here updated celestial object collection. So this is going to be the return value of celestial object collection. Let's map over these. And let's also go ahead and state, let's see. I could state dot map. We don't really want to filter here. We don't want to remove anything. But let's say element dot map. Let's say element here. Now, if the element, or I could just say actually item, I think item will work better here. Or just object, right? If that object inside of our celestial object collection, if that object, if its ID is equal to the selected item, we're using item, then I'm going to state item here. So if the ID of the item, any given item that we're iterating over the inside of the celestial object collection, if its ID is equal to the selected item's ID, then in that case, we want to return selected item. So we want to basically replace the item with the ID that was there before with selected item now. Otherwise, we want to just return the initial item, the regular item itself. And then finally, we go ahead here and we set the celestial object collection to the updated celestial object collection. So again, this should basically show to us the same sort of flow where, like, if I click on here and I say testing 1, 2, 3, and I click on submit, let's check console. Looks like everything has been successfully updated. Now, when I go back over here, let's give it a moment. Let's refresh. And let's just double check our state up here to see celestial object collection we map. If the item ID is equal to the selected item dot ID. Let me change that. Dot ID. So let's try that one more time. Let's say we remove the 1, 2, 3. Now let's go ahead here and click on submit. Let's exit out. And let's refresh here. Okay, the change is made there, but if it's not going ahead and replacing it, then I'll just want to select or see here some bits of information. So let's do console.log item.id, and then let's do selected item.id. So let's refresh here. Let's click on this. Let's do 1, 2, 3. Let's go ahead and submit. And now I want to see the console log of, yep, we can see item ID and selected item.id. So the first iteration through, we get 2 and 1, those don't match. Then we've got, in this case, 1, 1, we've got a match, and we return the selected item. But the selected item is not what we want to return. It's actually going to be updated data. So I believe that was the issue here. We want to return the updated data right up here that we generate, this totally new object. So let's go ahead and remove this. Let's refresh. We're going to see that testing 1, 2, 3 come through. But now let's go ahead and get rid of the 1, 2, 3 here. Let's click on submit. And now let's click on X, and there's testing. There we go. So it went ahead and updated for us. So now if I change this to testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hit submit, exit out, and it's right there.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much it then.
Yeah, that's pretty much, I mean, we can definitely, spend some of our remaining time here, like kind of cleaning things up.
Sure, definitely. Because I do, one thing I did see where, let me just go ahead and,
Mhm.
for some reason I put cosmic and not celestial is, I guess we could clean that up really quickly.
Yeah, totally. That should be just over in the modal. I believe that we have, let's see, or actually, I believe we were using forms to generate these. So let's see. There should be, we are looking at the modal here. Yep, there's our form, our contact form. So let's see. Yeah, so let's change this one to be name of celestial object. And there we go.
So one other thing is, let me go ahead and just show this really. So when we go to, just a second. So not be able to see the dashboard until logged in, because again, I haven't logged in yet, so I need to, how do I do that?
Okay. So making sure
Yeah.
that we don't see the dashboard unless the user's logged in, right?
That's weird. That didn't show my
Mhm.
email. Okay, let's see if this is the right. Okay, so logged in. Just never. So yeah, logged in, sign out, all of that stuff. Okay,
Mhm.
all we get is an okay for log out. So I don't. That's one other thing we would have to work on is getting it back to
Mhm.
the home page. So
Probably if you hit the back, I think it'll take you. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, so yeah, so that's basically just cannot see the dashboard unless I'm logged in, and once I log out, it takes me back to home.
Okay, gotcha. So is dashboard the only item that we should not be seeing or should be seeing? Like,
Yeah, yeah, just
oh,
dashboard because it's the obviously if future members want to,
mhm.
oh, here are some pictures and stuff like that. So, you
Gotcha.
know, the about, how to
Right.
reach us,
Public.
so it's just, yeah.
All right. So let's see first of all the navigation, the nav bar over here. And we've got all of our different links here. I can see dashboard.
Hmm.
Let's see here. Okay, so dashboard isn't currently included in the sort of like is authenticated logic over here. Um, so what I could do first of all is like for this whole button right here is just like move it into that conditional logic.
Okay.
So in other words, like, only if a user is actually authenticated will they be seeing not only, log in, or if they're not authenticated, right, they'll be seeing log in, but they should only be seeing log in when they're signed in, they should be seeing not only the sign out button, but also the dashboard, right? So I think this is probably just because that ternary operator we had in here. Let me get rid of that. Also, yeah, it's because I'm trying to return two elements here, and it doesn't really know how to handle that. So what I'm going to do is just a fragment to wrap these. And let's go ahead and put this piece down here, and that'll clear up the rendering issue there. All right. So I'll keep this then as is here for now. But at this point, I mean that solved the appearance of the button itself, right? Because
Hmm.
now only if we're logged in, like only if we actually go through that, that login process here. So let's go through that login process once more.
Yeah, okay. Again, that is so weird. It's not showing my,
The
but
user.
yeah, so continue.
Okay.
All right, so we're here.
Mhm.
Got the dashboard. Can uh testing Orion.
Mhm.
Gonna move this right here. Submit.
Yep, that's another thing we can do is like when we click that
It's
submit button, it can just take us right back, right? To here.
yeah, that would be something else. But yeah, just one thing at a time. Uh, and then just when it's sign out, it takes back home, and yes,
Hmm,
that should be about.
about
Uh,
it.
and again,
Mhm.
we have about 15 minutes plus the next 2 hours just to kind of do final adjustments. So
Totally. Totally. Yeah, we can. Well, what I'm predicting, yeah, is in tomorrow's session, we can totally just hammer away at like stylistic issues and rendering and the whole user
yeah,
experience.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, but if we click on, I mean, I want to see what happens first of all. We click on that sign out button, sign out on click fires off, and sign out on click is right here, which fires off log out. I mean, this is pretty much the approach I take when I'm trying to understand the code. Is I try to see like how everything is connected, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, so sign out on click is what fires off when we click on that. Log out is what fires off here. Now, seeing that function invocation leads me to believe, okay, that, that function is coming from somewhere else. Let me see here. I can see that we've got is authenticated login with redirect and also log out. So these are all pieces that we're getting from use auth, which is this hook that we're importing right here. So let's see, first of all, how use auth is working in this case. It looks like logout is available to us, and that's just gonna fire off. When logout fires off for us, let's see. So again, logout is really only in a few different cases here, only right up here and in the actual callback function. So we just invoke that logout. And again, when we click on sign out, it looks like we're taken to this location over here again with OK. I'd have to see that logout button here. And again, this is logout from use auth 0. Okay. So the thing is we have logout right here, but we can actually pass additional information to logout. What I can pass here, for example, is like an object that says return to. And in this case, we want it to return to just our basic landing page, right? So in this case, I mean, if we just go back, because this is local right now, we could say that we just want them to go back to this location. So let's go ahead here and state just that we want to take them to this, because again, this is development, right? It's a local environment that we're taking them back to here. So don't need that semicolon in there. There we go. All right, so we're in here. We don't see any information displayed. Let's go ahead and do login just once more here, just to test out the flow. So let's go ahead and drop that in. And then we'll see how we can go ahead and return to our location here.
So continue.
All right, so we're logged in. We go up to the navigation bar. We can see that dashboard is now showing as it should, right? Because only once we're authenticated should we be seeing that. Let me double check return to. In this case, I want to make sure that we are passing exactly what it's expecting here. Okay. All right, so now let's go ahead and click on sign out. And it's taking us back to this location here. So I've got to, excuse me. I've got to make sure that in this case, it's really going to take us back to this location. Let's verify here. Hold on. We've got return to, we've got our object inside of logout, which is firing off over here. Let's verify that there's no errors coming through over here. Sorry, man, we might have to try this just a few more times, the login, logout functionality here. But
and then go ahead and
yeah, let's try that login just one more time.
just I want to. Okay, so there is just very quickly, I think the login button needs to have like a sign up or log in instead of just saying login, so to prevent confusion. That's something we can work on tomorrow, but it's just
Okay.
that's just something that crossed my mind. It's like, oh yeah, what if, just to avoid confusion.
Yeah, like people should be able to register, right, for the application.
Yeah, register or log in, something like that.
All right, so let's try sign out again. So again, I verified here that when I click on this navigation bar, sign out over here, it's going to fire off this sign out on click. Sign out on click is right here, which is going to fire off log out, which we're passing an additional piece of information to here. Let me see if turn to does not exist in type omit logout options on redirect. Okay, so again, this is TypeScript here. So I want to make sure that we're utilizing TypeScript syntax. That could be throwing off our functionality here as well. So let's see, we've got handle log out or sign out on click, which is firing off. We've got log out, and we've got return to, along with HTTP localhost 5173. Yep, and that should work for us. So let's go ahead here and click on sign out once more. Okay, so if it continues taking us to this location here, then it's maybe not recognizing the return to. Let me see here for just a moment.
Is it the name reason instead of because it's instead of what is it called on the code sign out and not log out? Could that be a
Well, that's fine because that's just, this is a function like we've created ourselves. I could give this any
oh
name,
that's right. That's right.
but this one is the one that we have gone ahead and taken from use off from this invocation here. So basically we've done like some object destructuring assignment here, because when we invoke useauth 0, that generates an object that has corresponding keys. So when we go ahead and create the object, excuse me, with this instantiation here, we're basically creating our own reference points for the pieces from the object that's generated. Like this object that's generated contains a lot more pieces than these. These are just the pieces accessed and pulled out and said we want to use. Yeah. So again, I want to see here. Say here again, we've got HTTP ://localhost. And we've got 5173. Okay.
Yeah.
Just one moment here. I believe I know exactly where we can check this. So let's go over here and let's go to auth O. There should be a dashboard that you have here for setting this one up. Let's go ahead and log in here. And this is going to be more like your dashboard for auth O.
Mm-hmm.
Oops, looks like they're pretty secure about that.
Yeah, that's right. If
Two-factor authentication. Yeah.
yeah, it's for some reason they've been
Cool. All right. So on this dashboard, we basically need to authorize these sort of URLs that we're trying to drop in here in order
okay.
for it to work for us. But let's see.
There is only about 4 minutes, and I do have to kind of head to I got a lot to do today. So I mean, I don't, you know, and plus the time issue. I know you got your stuff. I don't want to go over. Can this? Can we just update this onto GitHub and then pick
Yeah,
this up because this seems like
it might take.
uh
Yeah.
yeah, this seems like something that might be a little just a tad time consuming.
Yeah,
But
that's a good call. All right. So we'll leave this up because we'll definitely jump into this next time to like authorize sort of URLs for the application. Because I can see we've already got a few. We got to identify which of these, right?
yeah, because
The
I was
application.
playing around with that. Yeah.
That will definitely take a little bit of time, but let's take all of our changes we've done here today. I'm going to hit add dot to wrap up all those changes. And the message I might use for this is what we've done here really is like finalize CRUD for celestial objects plus add, and then in this case, authorized rendering. Okay, let's go ahead and commit that. We'll see that in our log here. Now let's go ahead and push that up. And we should see those latest changes pushed here. So if you could send me this this URL here just so I can like take a look back maybe between our sessions and I can see like
Yeah,
your
I'll send that on I'll send that on chat right now.
cool. Yeah, just right in Wyzant. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is fine. I'll go ahead and bookmark it on my end. Just because when I finish the Zoom calls, usually it goes ahead and like removes the chat.
Oh yeah, were you able to get it?
Yep, I got it. All good.
Okay, and I will, if I have some time, I'll look through and like verify which one is the actual stuff. Because again, when I first started looking at Auth, I was playing around with it.
Mhm.
But it shouldn't be that hard to figure out which one it is through the code
Yeah, we
that they
can
gave us.
identify. Yeah, we can identify which one it is. And I think at this point, I mean, the reason why it's just taking us to that OK page is because it's missing those sort of like authorized locations to redirect us to.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. So we can just wrap this all up tomorrow, and I'll get it submitted. I haven't heard back from the React objects, the React apps, but I'll again, sometimes you can submit something and you don't, it may take a week for them to respond. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just like, you know, it's it's like because they're like, well, you haven't turned it in. It's like, no, I have. You're just not grading it. So
That's
I
the
hope I don't.
remote sort of workflow. Sometimes it takes.
Yeah, yeah, because I hope I don't have to be, well, you're not doing your job, but I get it. They have their lives to do also. So,
Mhm.
but
All right.
but it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. Well, yeah, let me know, like what they tell you. Just pass that on to me when you can.
Will
Um,
do.
and I'll, each one of these video recordings, I'll just keep adding them to that playlist on YouTube. So you'll just be able to keep finding them there.
Yeah, now I should be able to get them downloaded this weekend because again, next week I'm off and I'm
Mhm.
just getting a lot of stuff done, trying to clear out this apartment. Stuff I can throw away, stuff I can keep,
Okay.
stuff I can give away to some of my friends. So I'm gonna have a lot of free time. So, I'll keep you updated.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, I'll continue to have, availability through the evenings. Um, and don't worry too much about downloading the videos. I mean, you always have that as an option, but it doesn't look like YouTube is going to be, giving me any space warnings anytime soon. I think we're good on space. I'll just keep uploading them.
Yeah. It's just I would rather go ahead and download them just because, like you said, there is some sensitive information on there. So I would just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
go
Gotcha.
ahead and get that downloaded, put it into a flash drive, and then
And have
not have to. Yeah, just so unless there's someone that with enough time on their hands to go through YouTube videos and look
yeah,
through data of
yeah. Yeah, I made sure
I
to this playlist, I made sure to like not make it fully public. It is unlisted. So like only the people who have links to it can access it.
okay. Oh,
Uh,
okay, that's good too.
yeah, yeah. I made sure not to make it totally public. Because you never know. You never know who could
Yeah,
come. So
exactly.
mhm.
All right. Well, I'll leave you to your other thing, and we'll finish this up tomorrow.
All right. Sounds good. All right, Matt. Take care.
Thanks.
Okay.
Same to you. Thanks again.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.